Hey families, thanks for taking a few minutes to check out this video. I'm super excited for you to hear from Jessica as we just dive in a little bit more to emotions and feelings and how as parents and caregivers and grandparents or even teachers or wherever you interact with kids, just how we can be equipped and trained to continue to have conversations around mental health, emotions, and feelings. And so we're just going to take a few minutes and have a quick conversation and invite you to listen in, and hopefully it'll be just an encouragement to you as you are discipling your kids, but also just an encouragement to you as you just continue to care about yourself too and your mental health and just good stuff. So, okay, tell us about who you are,
Sure.
what you do, and all of that.
Okay. I am Dr. Jessica Wood. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I provide therapy services, psychotherapy for teenagers, kiddos, families, parents, adults, and everything in between. And I have been doing this for about 15 to 20 years now. And that's probably about it.
Yeah.
That's me.
You have two kids.
I have two kids. Yes, I have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Married, live in the Grain Valley area, go to church here at First.
Yeah.
And enjoy playing with my kids, doing family stuff.
Yeah. So we're super thankful to have them at our church and the resource that she's going to be for us. And as you heard, she said doctor in front of her name, like she knows her stuff. And so much more than Rob, Jess, Amy, Joel, myself, and our team, we're just so thankful for your wisdom. So we're just going to go through a couple questions that hopefully are helpful to you and just have a little bit of a conversation. So
Sure.
I think as we thought through this time, the biggest thing was just like, as parents, how do we help our kids navigate their emotions? And so obviously there's just so much to unpack there.
Yeah.
But in the home, like, what does it look like just to have healthy conversations around feelings and emotions? And if that's something that's like very out of bounds for families or like makes families uncomfortable because everything's good and perfect and no, like, how do we just start to have those conversations? Or how do we start to recognize like, okay, we need to change maybe the way or the language we talk about emotions even, because I think it can have such a negative, like,
Sure.
emotions are bad, you're weak, something's wrong with you.
Sure.
And I think I'm in a season of just learning, like, no, emotions, God gave us emotions, they're to inform us, they're to help us. So I know that's a big question, but how do we just start having these natural conversations in our homes?
Sure. I think that at the most basic level, the important thing is to remember, like you said, we all have emotions. God created us to have emotions. They inform us. They don't have to dictate our lives. They don't have to control us, but they can give us good information about what's going on with us. And so I think, starting with we little ones, recognizing that characters in books have feelings, and we can point those things out, and just naming emotions can really help to not make them such a big, scary thing.
Yeah.
We feel happy, we feel sad, we feel mad, we feel embarrassed. Like, those are all normal things that everybody experiences. No one is immune to experiencing emotions. We all experience them.
Yeah. We even have started with Hudson and Finley just having an emotions chart or like wheel. And each night, and Brett's way better than I am, but each night they have to pick 2 emotions. And their vocab with their emotions has like gotten so much larger because it's not just like happy, sad, but like, ooh, I felt jealous, or I felt whatever, like disgusted, like they're just multiple emotions. And so, I love just even like picking out of books and identifying. And so like, how do we help have the conversations? I mean, you just hit on this, like the emotions are good and everyone has emotions. But maybe like, as families, that everything does have to be okay, or everything like, or maybe we have big emotion kids and we don't know how to handle it, so then we just shut it down. Like, what maybe even are like the dangers of that, and how can we rewire our brains to like have an open
Yeah.
space.
I think, when we think about not being able to talk about something, we were designed to communicate, and we're going to communicate one way or another. If we can't share our feelings, oftentimes it comes out as behaviors then. And then we're going back, okay, well, what does this behavior mean? What does this behavior mean? So if we can allow and encourage talking about our emotions from the get-go, you don't have to wonder what's going on.
Yeah.
We teach our kids from an early age, hey, it's okay to talk about this. Because, again, everybody has them.
Yeah.
If we can just normalize that, that takes some of the... we have to be perfect. We know we're not perfect.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we wouldn't need a savior.
Right.
So we all have emotions. And again, normalizing that can take some of the intensity or the fear or whatever it may be around being able to talk about it.
Yeah.
And also talking about our emotions can then help to prevent, behaviors because kids are safe to talk about it versus acting it out.
Yeah. And I think that's, if I'm being like transparent, one of my biggest fears as a mom is like shutting down my kids' emotions and then it turning into behaviors that can turn into addictions, that can turn into lifelong things that they wrestle with because they never learned how to deal with their emotions or communicate their emotions.
Sure.
So as we work into like now talking through it like with our kids specifically, like how can parents just help their kids work through emotions or what are some good things to say or do when there's big emotions, like if there's anger or anxiety or lots of tears, like what are like don't do's and do this.
Sure. I think, it's important to remember that kids are watching us to see how we respond. And if we can stay calm in the moment, that creates a place of safety for them to continue to express themselves.
Yeah.
If we get big when they get big, they're just going to keep getting big and feel unsafe. And then sometimes kids either act out or they shut down and internalize things, and then we don't know what's going on, and we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I think one of the most important things that we can do as parents for our kids is to stay the calm ones, to model how to appropriately communicate things. If we're not sure, we can seek help from others too, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But again, I think, when you're looking at little ones, getting down, eye level with them, using a calm tone of voice, talking slowly, those are some things we can do. When we're helping to teach them how to express emotions, we're reading to them at night. We can point out characters in books, how did this person feel when this happened to them, and labeling those emotions. And then also, combining it with some, what does that look like, to feel sad, or what was a time that you felt sad, so that they can start to understand, okay, well, this is okay. Let's talk about this,
Yeah.
I think one thing I love to talk about with parents is that when they see their kids angry, so often I will use the anger umbrella. There's typically something underneath it. Anger is just sometimes the most acceptable way to express something. Yeah. And so kids may not realize what they're feeling. Yeah. They just get mad. Yeah. And so the more that we can use different language and identify different emotions, sadness, embarrassment, jealousy, whatever it may be, then they can put names to those feelings versus getting mad, and that's the only way they know to communicate.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. So we got to get to the root issue. We got to get to what's underneath. So what are some good questions or ways that we can help kids unpack that?
Sure. I think asking open-ended questions. Yeah. Not just yes, no, because that's easy to hide behind. Yeah. But, it looks like you're really upset about something. Tell me more about that. What's going on with you right now? Yeah. Is there something that happened at school today? There was a time when I felt what it looks like you're feeling, and let me tell you about that. Yeah. That again creates that sense of safety for them to actually talk about it.
Yeah, that's so good. So what if your kid is like, no, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to go there. Storms off, runs off, and we as parents are like, and especially moms, we're like, no, I need to know, I need to know. Yeah. And I already Hudson's getting into the middle school years, and I'm already feeling that and having to okay, it's gonna be okay. You don't have to know. There's other safe people he can talk to. But
absolutely.
What are just how do we take a breath and know it's okay and not have to control the situation.
Yeah. I think it's okay, you know, sometimes parents are afraid to give them space because they're like, well, I need to know now, just like you said. But giving them a time to cool down is okay.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay to go to them and say, hey, look, I see that you're really upset right now and you don't necessarily want to talk to me, but I just want to let you know that I'm here when you're ready.
Yeah.
If there's someone else you'd like to talk to, it doesn't have to be me.
Yeah.
It can be anybody that you'd like, and I would be happy to get that person for you.
Yeah.
And I think remembering as parents that just because they don't want to talk to us doesn't mean that they don't love us or that we're doing a bad job or anything. There might be something they're embarrassed to share.
Yeah.
You know, and they would feel better talking with someone about it first and then maybe coming to us. And that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, so good. So good. Because I even just want to sit here and like, okay, work through this with my situation because this just happened. And what you said, like one of my kids went to someone else and they were scared to come to us. And so that's so good. Okay, so like, how do you encourage parents when they see it more as like behavioral and there needs to be punishment or consequences for those big emotions? Like, how do you help parents kind of navigate, we can work through this and it's emotions and there's something there versus like, oh, well, they just totally disrespected me in that moment. So now their phone's gone or they're grounded or you know what I mean? Like, how do you help parents navigate that?
Sure. I think that, of course, there are times when it will be appropriate for consequences.
Yeah.
You know, if there are behaviors that accompany things. However, I think, again, the first part is to remember my goal is to connect with my kid. And if I go in there storming, your phone's gone, this gone, that's gone, like, they're putting walls up. Like, they're not talking to me.
Yeah.
And so I think that, you know, we know that if we can, again, get those walls down, we can come in calm, we can come in not guns blazing, kids are more likely to talk to us.
Yeah.
You know, validating their emotions is really important. So they're like, oh, okay, you see that. It doesn't mean we agree with the emotion or that we are accepting.
Yeah.
But again, we're acknowledging like, hey, you've got an emotion.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have a different response in that situation, but you're a different person.
Yeah.
And so I hear, you know, I want you to know that I'm hearing you and that I'm a safe person for you to talk to me about this.
Yeah.
And just because you blow up, like I've blown up too, man. Like I get it. Like I see that you're hurting because typically if they're blown up, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
You know, and to remember that, you know, our kids, their goal is not to misbehave. Their goal is not to blow up. They don't want to do that. They just don't know what else to do in that moment. And so it's our job as parents to recognize that and try to help them unpack what that is.
Yeah, that's so good. So good. Because I think especially in maybe like those middle school, high school years where there's like, oh, I'm trying to figure out who I am, and I don't want authority, and I don't want and then you're
I'm
like,
trying to be independent. I don't actually know what's all going on. There's so much going on in my body. My body is changing. I'm going through puberty.
Yeah.
All of those things contribute to emotions.
Yeah, and I think as parents, which I'm not there yet, but I would assume parents are like, I've been saying the same things for 16 years. Why haven't they gotten it yet?
Sure.
Like, they shouldn't be, they should be able to hear what I say and take it. And and there's just
ask
so
yourself,
much
were
there.
you able to do that when you were 16?
Yeah.
Like, or were you still trying to figure this out and be independent?
Yeah.
Like, because, you know, oftentimes I think we forget that we were there once too, and how hard was that?
Yeah.
You know, life's not easy for kids these days.
Yeah.
There's so much going on. There's so many things they have to navigate, so much more than even when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know, I think about all the different influences, all the different, you know, social media things that they're dealing with, the pressures in different age levels.
Yeah.
It's very different than when I was a kid, and I can't imagine how difficult that would be to navigate.
Yeah.
And so empathizing with where your kid's at.
Yeah.
And again, validating, being a safe person, staying calm, modeling for them, you know, what it looks like to be appropriate and express ourselves in healthy ways.
Yeah. I think the temptation as parents is so much that we want our kids to like behave well because we want it to reflect that we're good parents. And so then we get into this where it's like, well, this is a reflection of me, so I need them to do this, this, and this. And really, like you're saying, connection is so important. And we talk about that a lot, like the influence you want to have with your kids, especially as they get older.
Yep, absolutely.
When they're making the most important decisions is when you want to have the most influence. But that's not going to come from controlling them and being able to get them to do what you want. It's from the relationship that you've connected with.
And it's important to remember, like, the only one I can really control is myself. And I don't want to control my kid. Like, I want my kid to be able to make their own choices.
Yeah.
And I think that oftentimes, like you mentioned, parents can fall into that trap. Well, like, if they're misbehaving, it is a reflection on me. But we forget, like, they are their own person.
Yeah.
They do make their own choices.
Yeah.
I may have, done all of the things right, and they might still make different choices than I would.
Yeah.
And express things differently. But again, we want to have that foundation where we've got the relationship, because that really is going to be, so valuable as they grow into adults, and making sure that we can still influence them when they're faced with choosing other teenagers as their go-tos and influencers.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, building that foundation when they're little is really helpful.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's kind of end maybe on this. What are some warning signs, or what are some like red flags that maybe it's anxiety or depression or those really scary emotions where it's like, okay, there's more going on here that we really need to figure out. Like, what are some warning signs or things parents are like, ooh, that needs additional help?
Sure. I think when you notice, your kid's going along, all of a sudden you notice some pretty significant changes in them. Maybe they're isolating a lot. They're staying in their room. They're not socializing. They're real closed off. They're shut down. Or the big emotions just happen all the time, and you're not finding solutions and how to calm those down. If you feel like, as a parent, like something's off with my kid, like maybe I need some help, that can be a sign as well. They're, little Johnny's not the same as he was last year. Like, something is different. What's going on? I don't know that it's ever a bad thing to talk to somebody and ask for help. Like, if you're not sure what to do, if you see like things are different, you're not able to connect with them, you're not able to get through, you're not feeling like you're not helping, like, asking for outside help is okay.
Yeah. For sure.
We can't do this all. Like, God did not intend for us to do this alone. Yeah. He put people in the world to help. For sure. For a reason.
Yeah. That's so important. And I think that's so good to hear, but also just be reminded. I've had this conversation a lot with a couple close friends, just emotions and counseling or getting outside help. And do you feel like there's kind of been a healthy move towards that? Because we were just saying, like, maybe our older generations have a harder time, like, recognizing that, but I feel like we're headed in a healthier direction.
Yeah, I think the more that the conversation happens about mental health, and the more that needing to get help is accepted, then the more people seek that out. Yeah. And the more people feel safe to do that, the more they're going to seek it out too. Yeah.
And I think that's what's just so important. Like, it is okay to seek it out. It is. Yeah. I think it should be like you get a yearly physical. You should get a yearly evaluation. Just go talk to someone for once a year at least, because I think it's just good for us. Yeah. And so it is. And there's so many resources. We have resources. Jessica has a ton of resources of places and people. And so if that's something, even just as a family, you're like, oh, okay, we need some help. Like, we would love to guide you. We are not counselors here on staff. Jessica obviously is. I am not. So we would love to point you towards those resources and those helps. So what's kind of one last, like, this is what I want parents to be encouraged by?
I think I would just say that you know your kids. You know them better than anyone else. And trust your guts if you feel like they need help. If you feel like you're not able to do what you're hoping and trying to do, remember it's okay to ask for help. And again, I think the other important thing that I would say is to make connection your focus when you're interacting with your kids and trying to help them understand emotions.
Yeah, it's so good. And as a family ministry, like, that is our desire, is to partner with you to help you make those connections and help you have critical conversations and help you disciple your kids. And so hopefully this quick conversation encourages you to do that, challenges you to do that, to make those connections, to make it relational, because we know that the gospel moves through relationships. Absolutely. And so that's parents to kids too. And we so desire for your kids to have a personal and authentic faith that transforms the way they love God, they love others and the way they love themselves, which is so much of mental health. And so we just are so thankful to partner with you, and thank you for just taking a few minutes to invest in your family and in your kids in this way. And we will have lots more resources coming your way. So if you have questions or needs, don't ever hesitate to reach out to us, because we would love to connect and help you along this journey.